we have been joined, as promised, by Dr. Margo Lewis-Jah. She is a therapist, and I'm going to let her say all of the titles that she has because thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And first of all, am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
It's Jah.
Jah, okay,
Yep.
okay. So tell us a little bit about you and what you do for work.
Okay. As you said, my name is Dr. Margo Lewis-Jah. I'm a clinical social worker. I have a PhD in human sexuality, a master's degree in education, a master's degree in social work, and a master's degree in organizational management and leadership.
Wow.
So.
Very impressive. Very impressive.
Thank you.
So when we were talking
Yes.
to prepare for this interview, it was very hard for me to go back to work.
Wow.
It really was, because I was very excited, and it felt like that was a month ago.
Yes.
But I was very excited about the topics that we wanted to talk about. And I know
Okay.
that you and Dwayne had a really good conversation.
We did.
So I'm going to just open up and let you start with, why do you think that this topic is so critical for people?
I think the topic of emotional wellness is critical for people to understand, because we tend to minimize things as individuals, as collectively in society. We run around and there's so much dysfunction which we normalize, and I don't think people ever get to see what healthiness actually looks like being practiced. We all want to achieve healthiness, but how we get there is something that we don't know how to do. So generally when someone comes into my practice, the first thing that I say to them is, what do you do for physical fitness? And they respond. You two can answer.
Yeah, we
You
work
too?
out.
Okay. What do you do for financial fitness?
What do you do?
Well, your bank account, make sure everything is correct and save your money or how you spend it.
Create a budget and stick to it.
Right. What do you do for spiritual fitness?
Church,
pray.
pray, read the Bible.
Then I ask them what they do for emotional fitness. And this is exactly what they say to me, exactly what you're doing. They just sit and they look. And I say, well, if we're supposed to be mind, body, and soul, then how do you care for yourself emotionally? And people don't know how to. So that's where psychotherapy comes in the concept of emotional wellness and how we teach that to people.
Now, go ahead, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did have a question. Just when you were saying that, from me meeting people over the years, one of the issues I see is when they come to meet with a doctor per se, like, oh no, the doctor will give me some kind of medical stuff or something that, you know, they don't know what they're talking about, they really don't know me. How are you able to, I guess, get them to understand or overcoming, like, it's not a doctor and you're hearing these type things, is, I'm not phrasing it the way I'm trying to say it, but a lot of people have a problem talking with a doctor. They feel a doctor's trying to get in my head, they know me, they know this, you don't know me, this, and how do you help them to understand, I can help you, I can get you to see the things you need to do to help yourself emotionally?
Yeah, get past the stigma.
Generally people come and they will, when they come there's always this barrier, this concept of, if I tell you my personal business, you're going to know my dirty secrets. But the problem is that we have to change that thinking. If you tell me your problems, I'm going to be able to help you alleviate that pain. So just like words hurt, words can also heal. So that's part of the message that I try to convey to individuals when they come into individual therapy.
Now, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I noticed that when you and Dwayne were talking in the green room earlier, that the subject of children, young people, and emotional health came up.
Right.
And my question is, we'll get back to adult emotional health,
Okay.
but when it comes to, I feel like when it comes to our children and children in our lives that we love, we are much easier, willing, I'm not sure which word to put in there, to recognize that there is an emotional wellness issue than we would be to identify it in ourselves. And we're much more willing to get somebody to help us with the emotional health when it comes to a child. Do you find that to be true?
I do find that to be true, but the problem is that you can't really effectively help a child without helping the parents. Because generally a child has learned that behavior. We have children running around killing each other, doing harmful things to one another. And you ask yourself, well, how did that child develop this behavior? And so you have to say, is it within their environment? Is it within their home? Is it within their community? And so it's hard to help a child when you can't help beyond them. So when a person brings a child into service from me, I do tell the parents that they have to make an understanding that I'm not just helping your child, I'm helping you to be a better parent, because these behaviors, I don't want to say exist because of the parenting, but these behaviors exist in connection with your parenting skills. So the only way to modify them is for the parent to get better at learning how to manifest new processes as well to be able to help their child.
Now, to piggyback off of what she just said to you, a lot of parents don't recognize the mental problems with their kids a lot of the time.
Absolutely.
They think it's just a bad kid or someone else telling them your child is bad instead of recognizing it. So I guess that goes into what, helping the parents?
Absolutely. Helping them to understand what typical healthy behavior should look like at that age versus what unhealthy behavior looks like.
Okay, so you ask those 3 questions to people. What do you do for physical health? What do you do for financial health? What do you do for spiritual health? And we both had answers, at least as step 1
Correct.
for all of those things. So what is the step 1 for emotional health?
Is to step outside of yourself. Take a chance. Call someone. Ask someone for an opinion. Most of the times, people, by the time they get to my office, they have already heard from someone that they need help. They will come and say, well, my grandmother told me this a long time ago, or my doctor said that I should seek out help. It's just the process of getting there and helping them push through that barrier of being able to open themselves up, to be vulnerable, to get help.
So, not laying on the sofa talking.
Oh, you can sit on the couch and talk. Go ahead, absolutely.
Okay, here we go. I told you briefly my story.
Yes.
And someone in that particular case definitely will go through some emotional things, because I've seen it during rehabilitation. People are angry, mad, or anything like that.
Absolutely.
I never went through that. So what was the difference? I always say it was God, and I know it was him, but I never really asked that question to myself until you're here on the show now. But I've never went through that. It's just a calm, you know, and I got upset a couple times, but nothing really lashing out from what happened. What was the difference between me and someone else?
You know, that's interesting that you say that. That's actually what got me in the field of psychology, because 2 people can experience the same thing and react very differently. Whereas someone, you can live in the inner city, hear gunshots all day and all night, and it not faze you. Someone driving through, hear those shots, and it be a traumatic event for them. So as you said, you believe it was God that got you through it. Coping skills, what you use to cope in a crisis, is what helps you to come out of a crisis. You said you never experienced that, whereas someone else who, I think you said there was another person who was shot also, it may have turned their entire world upside down. Questioned their ability to be a man, their ability to live, their ability to continue to participate in an activity that they loved, like you did. Could shake their whole entire universe and completely have a different outcome.
So how, this is a loaded question, because
Okay.
you know, but how long would someone be in therapy?
It depends.
Okay.
So that is a loaded question.
Yeah.
It depends on how they're internalizing it, what negative behaviors or patterns or cognitions that they're having about the trauma and what's taken place with them, or just how compound their trauma is. So if this is stuff, you could have lost your job and come in feeling very low, very self-defeated, but once you get on the couch, there are other things that could be discovered, that you were unable to keep a marriage perhaps, and you might be feeling like a failure in that component. Perhaps you were given up for adoption. So underneath of it all could be a sense of rejection and failure. So once you open up, it's like peeling back an onion. I always say, the more you peel back, the deeper it goes. The more you begin to cry, the more is exposed. So it depends, really. It's all individualistic.
That's really frightening.
Yeah, it is.
Why would anybody do that?
For relief, for emotional relief. Sometimes people just get so overfilled with the emotions, and once you get in, and then you start realizing that there's so much more underneath that you've never resolved, but then it explains your behavior in your life, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your partnerships, whether it's your work relationships that you have, then you begin to better understand what's happening for you and how you're internalizing it, but more importantly, how it's being displayed in your behavior.
You know, much like Dwayne, I had not a situation, just it's a way that things happen with me.
Okay.
We're not using you for free therapy, Dr.
Oh no,
Dr.
absolutely.
Margo.
Go ahead.
Yes,
I'm here.
I am. Yes, I am.
I'm here.
No, but I started a new job,
Okay.
and I'd only been there, the job I have now actually, but I'd only been there for maybe a month. And at the time, my mother had been in the hospital
Okay.
for maybe 2 weeks, okay?
Okay.
So the day she was being discharged, I asked if I could take an extended lunch to go pick my mother up from the hospital. My new manager looked at me like I was insane because I'd been there for 10 days and no one knew that anything was wrong with me.
Wow.
And and she was really, I mean, when you meet somebody new and there's this thing that happens, it was really not jarring to our relationship, but then she's thinking, what kind of person did I hire that doesn't care that her mom's in the hospital? I absolutely care.
Right.
But I put it into a very tidy compartment that I deal with later.
Absolutely.
So I think that's
and
fine.
that's what people, no, that's not fine, but that's what people tend to do actually. So Shauna, they compartmentalize things and they deal with things on a priority level. But the problem with that is that eventually that stuff that you're compartmentalizing, it catches up with you. And so you have to find a way to deal with it.
So that means she'll explode or something like that?
Possibly. Everybody does it
So
and
you should be
behaves
nicer to me.
I'm going to move away.
Everybody expresses it differently.
Okay. Do you have a question?
I have a ton of questions, but has any client ever come to you where after they left or during the sessions, after a couple of weeks or months, where you have to sit back and get emotional about or anything like that?
Yeah, how do you keep the distance?
Because you've been doing this for several years.
Yes.
So I know you probably strengthen up the word slipped me, but yeah.
But how do you do that? I mean, I know you have master's degrees, but
Ethically, our code of ethics as professionals, as helping professionals, requires us to be able to utilize another helping professional, so that if we are experiencing some type of countertransference from our client, right, and internalizing something, we're supposed to go to another helping professional to just be able to converse and dialogue about what we may be taking from that experience and how we can best be able to service our client.
now, again, I hope this isn't a loaded question, but when we were putting together the materials for your interview, and I saw that there were so many different areas of mental health where you can be of assistance to people, is there any area where you really feel like this is not that all areas aren't critical, but that this is a very, very critical area?
Trauma.
Trauma?
Trauma, because everyone interprets trauma differently, but it's something that I feel like manifests itself in such different negative ways throughout our lives that it's important to realize when you've experienced some level of trauma. Again, trauma is individualistic and it can be interpreted any way, but the way that it's interpreted to you is the way that it matters to everyone else. Okay. So trauma.
So we're going to put up your information
later
so people know how to reach you and how to call you.
Wonderful.
What should someone expect? Because I know that, like I said, why would you do that? Why? And I'm like, really? I would on purpose go to someone to feel more? No. I feel quite enough already. But if someone were to come, is there something that you could? What can they expect from their first visit?
Generally, when someone comes in for their first visit, they are asked a battery of questions, basically their biopsychosocial information, who they are, what brought them into therapy, and you would be so surprised that by the time someone actually finds the confidence or the desire to come to therapy, they just get on that couch and they regurgitate and they actually just feel so much better, and they're like, oh, I'm so glad I came.
Really?
At the end of it, yeah.
Well, that is one of the key things I've noticed. People really don't listen.
Yeah.
And when someone is going through something or hurt, they normally telling them something they don't want to hear.
Absolutely.
And they don't listen. So I guess your sessions are an hour, or does they vary?
They're an hour.
They're an hour?
Yes. Yep. Typically, its typical session is an hour.
Now, from the first session in the interview, does that tell how long they would have to continue to come to you? If it's a month, or is no given time?
No, we never clinically give a time frame for how long you'll be in therapy. It just depends on how much and how quickly you process things and how how you're able to come back and say, I feel a difference in my life. So at the end of all of my sessions, I give homework, and people
I
are
was
like,
going to ask you that.
we give homework, and I say, absolutely, I give you homework. Why? Because when you're in therapy with me, it's easy for you to be able to apply what we're talking about right in the context of our conversation. But what I want you to be able to do is take that information and apply it to your life and be able to practice it. Those individuals who do really well, and some of my clients who may be watching are going to be like,
hey, I hope I'm one of them.
Yeah, exactly. They do well, they go out, they do the homework, they come back, and their homework assignment is completed, and they're able to share about it and talk about what they learned about themselves or about what they were actually able to implement on their own. And those who don't do well come back and they struggle with the homework, and then we talk about the barriers that didn't allow them to fully implement that goal for them and what the issue was.
In addition to homework, do you also provide your clients with, or maybe this is part of the homework, but tools? Like
Absolutely, absolutely. So the homework is tools. It's a battery of tools. It depends on what the issues are. Give me something that you think you'd like to work on, and I'll give you a tool for it.
My compartmentalization.
Okay.
Oh, were you asking me that for real?
Yes,
okay.
For real. tell me why it creates a problem.
I don't think it creates a problem, but okay, I can see where it would create a problem because perhaps over time there could be an outburst of someone for no reason, but whatever was compartmentalized.
Okay, so is it that you're not going back to whatever you're tabling? Is that the issue?
It depends on what I've compartmentalized.
Okay.
It depends, you know, or if there's a chance or an opportunity to deal with it later, I might deal with it later. But if I don't want to, I won't.
So one of the first things that we would discuss is why you don't want to, why you're so vulnerable to that feeling, what the issue is there. What's creating that barrier that doesn't allow you to want to go back. And then what we would do is create a homework assignment that would allow you to have to go back. Yeah.
Well, I love that word barriers. She's breaking barriers for you. I have a question.
Exactly, yes.
We have our teenagers, teenage girls, teenage boys, and some of them are shy or low key, and they might get picked on, and they deal with it emotionally differently. So is it anything short that you can tell the youth that might be watching, or the parents, how they would handle certain circumstances or problems they have with other kids that might pick or anything like that on them? Because they both handle it separately, the males and the females.
Yeah.
Right. So for girls, most of the times, it's just a known fact that we internalize things, right? So the way we express it may be withdrawing from crowds, withdrawing from other girls, not being active. So for those girls and those families, I would say find something that would build your child's sense of self. Put your child in ballet, find a free art program, a supportive group such as Breaking Barriers that you're able to implement and put your child into to build your child's sense of self-worth. For boys externalize things. So theirs very much looks like, their presentation may look like arguing or fighting, what we talked about. I don't want you to be bigger than me, you know, that male ego, that presentation, that dominant thing. So I would tell you to put your boys into something that would allow them to exert some energy. Karate, basketball, something that was team building, that also fed into their sense of self-confidence. But getting your children involved in community things is always beneficial.
How important is it in that part with the family, the parents? Because in my prayer I was saying family.
Absolutely.
You don't see a lot of that. So.
Absolutely. Well, family is, you know, it takes a village to raise a child, right? That's what we say in our community. And family is not just who lives in your house, but those individuals outside of you. So there are plenty of teachers and parishioners and neighbors who are involved in things. So be able to utilize those community supports to help your child or assist you in helping your child find something that they can identify with.
Dr. Margo, we want to thank you so
much
for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
And invite you back anytime.
Oh, wonderful.
I think we
Absolutely.
have talked a little bit about that on the phone.
Yes, there's much more to talk about.
It would be beneficial.
It would be
and
wonderful.
get a little deeper.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.